With the agenda, I don't see how it will be short, because we have a lot of exciting projects that we're going to go through. I know everybody got sent a copy of the minutes. Did everybody read them? And if so, can I have a motion that we approve them? Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. The big part of the meeting, the capital projects updates. And there are a lot of them, but they're exciting. Yeah. Okay.
We are trying to fill, and thank you. I did want to let you know that we have promoted Amrita to Senior Project Manager, Amrita Chatterjee. So she has been doing a fantastic job. I keep throwing more and more at her, and she just keeps taking care of it. So she really does deserve the promotion, and so we're happy that she accepted that. We have interviewed for all of the open positions and reposting some of those and continuing. I have an interview tomorrow on one of those. So we're continuing to talk with candidates, and hopefully we'll have some really great news the next commission meeting. So just wanted to let you know that. And I wonder if we might move, I know we have one or two people that may have to leave a little early, if we might move the BPAC legislation discussion up, if that's okay. And Councilmember Allen, I didn't peg you ahead of time, but we were wondering if you could just kind of just give us some information about that legislation. And I know it was deferred last night. I had actually stepped out of the room when it was deferred, so I don't have all the details on that.
So just to give context, this is somewhat of a recreation of a very successful group that existed under previous administrations, Bicycle Pedestrian Advocacy Committee, that this would formalize it so that even when administrations change and have their own particular priorities that they want to focus on, this will continue on its own, which I think is really important. And it's, I think, modeled very significantly after that very successful group that draws from the same types of groups. And y'all have copies both of the amendment and, I mean, the bill itself and an amendment that was just a very small change. But the amendment actually does a great job of giving you the one paragraph that talks about all the different groups that they would draw from for the membership of this advisory committee. So you can kind of look over that list and see advocacy groups, AARP, 50 Forward, Local Bicycle Club, Walking Hiking Club. And the whole goal of this group would be just to increase awareness and educate and advocate for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure throughout the city. They have in the past been really successful at creating an annual policy ride and policy walk for council members, just to make them aware of either what.
Sorry.
That's okay. What legislation, needed to be put forth, or just to emphasize the value of capital projects that they wanted to be funded, and how that could affect pedestrians. So I'm excited. I'm a co-sponsor of this, and a whole bunch of other council members are as well. I think that list is not given on the copy that you have. There are close to a dozen sponsors on this, I think. So I don't anticipate that there will be any problem getting it passed. I think it was a procedure. It was deferred by rule, which means some committee had to still do something. But my understanding is that we're getting very close to pass. I expect it to pass at the next March 7th meeting, which I'm excited about. And I think it will be a great partner with this group, just in terms of pushing for, more funding for Greenways. So I hope this group is as excited as I am about it, and will, I don't know that it is needed, but it's always nice to have Greenways Commission members write in support of passing the legislation. So I think it will come up March 7th, and if people wanted to send emails to the council members, the day or two before, March 5th or 6th or something, then that's just further confirmation that we all think this is good.
So you mentioned that this group was formed under a previous administration this formalizes that committee. Have they been operational?
They
or functional?
were, but they sort of disappeared
Okay.
as, we've had several administrative changes
A few.
since that administration. And just focus moved elsewhere, and that frequently happens. And so this would bring it back. It currently has not met for a couple of years, so this would bring it back, but still draws very heavily on what was out there, because it wasn't that it wasn't a good group, it just lost the priority that it had earlier.
Understood. Thank you.
It was under Carl Dean that he started it.
Correct.
And it was very active and very helpful. I mean, you talk about
I
that
agree wholeheartedly.
as an advocacy group whenever possible for Greenways.
Is there any action necessary from us to say, yes, we like this, or we vote to support it, or anything?
I mean, there are two ways to do it. One is individual members to write, but I think it's also more powerful if this group thinks it's appropriate to actually, have a motion to say we support this, and then, have something actually come from the president. If Ann could also say something, if we can do that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, do you all need some more time to read through and?
So I think we need to,
Okay.
before we endorse anything.
Yeah, clearly.
Closely at it, and we'll certainly have time as individuals who are members between now and the
And
meeting.
when I first read it, I was concerned. The last whereas is on the first pages, the availability of shared micro-mobility alternatives, including bicycles, and electric scooters, should be encouraged and promoted in the Nashville and Davidson County. But I asked Berkeley, and she said, no, not on the Greenway.
Not on the greenways. That would be creating the bike infrastructure we need to keep them, in a safe space around the streets and off the greenways.
Right. Just to clarify.
Oh, yeah, there are the sponsors listed on the first page. So timing wise, I don't know if there's a procedure for us to vote retroactively or vote by email later or whatever, but I'm fairly sure this will be on third reading. I should remember this. If this is on third reading, then March 7th is sort of when we need to act, but
So we won't have a chance to meet as a body
I don't
between
think
now
so.
and then, but we
Cindy?
may be able to.
I was, and this
respond
was
via email.
second reading, but.
It was second reading last night.
it was second reading last night? Okay, then we're good. So it'll be second reading again on March 7th, then it'll come back on March 21, but we only meet quarterly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're every other month. But you all, you may want to take this up as if you would like to form a committee to review this. I think that could be done.
I'd serve on that committee. And then could that committee speak for the rest of the group, just in terms of timing to communicate to the rest of the group before the March 21?
I think that's up to you all,
Vote.
or you can address it individually.
Either way. I don't think it's critical to the passage, but it would be lovely for Greenways to be officially supportive.
Our next meeting is April 12th,
12th.
so that might be too late anyway.
Well, why don't we
Third
just
reading.
do it as individuals?
Okay.
That'll work.
Okay.
That way we're not in violation of the open meeting.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think that will do the job. And I would, certainly encourage y'all, if you have any questions or concerns, to speak to me or any of the other sponsors on it. Because we want it to be something that people see as a good thing that's very supportive of Greenways, which I believe it is.
Okay. Ann? Would you like for me to go ahead and move to project updates? Okay. Sorry, this is always a little awkward. We're very mobile here. So I'm going to not run through every single project that's going on, but just some of the key projects, some of those that you're probably hearing about in the news that our greenways that will come with private development, and then also some of just our key projects. Starting with the Charlotte Corridor Railway Trail Greenway. Just to let you know, we are continuing to meet with property owners, with the Cheatham County Rail Authority, and other metro departments as we work out the routing for this greenway. We have, hopefully, we'll have the results of the community engagement up on the project website shortly. As you know, we did an immense amount of community engagement, public meetings, as well as meeting with stakeholders. Quite a few meetings. We're still, as I said, we're still talking with property owners adjacent to this rail corridor. So it's moving along. We're feeling very good about the progress that we're making, but there's still a lot of conversations to have. So just wanted to let you know it's not stagnant. It is moving. And if you have any particular questions about it, I'm happy to try to answer those. Okay.
Website soon.
Yeah, so the results of the meetings that we had, just a compilation of all the, we'll have all the comments posted that we received at the in-person public engagement. We'll have the results of the survey that we did, the online survey, a report of all the different stakeholder groups that we met with, and there were quite a few there. So that will be posted like we do on any master planning projects and parks, and just up for the public to see.
Will there be another community input meeting?
We'll have
or is
another,
that the-
we'll have, when we come out with the draft of the final routing, draft as in we still need public input on that, that will be out in a public format.
And do you have any expected time when that might occur?
I don't yet. We had meetings as recent as yesterday afternoon with some of the property owners. We're meeting again with the Rail Authority next week, just ironing out the spatial issues that we have and, addressing their concerns. Everyone has concerns about safety. I mean, that is very important. And what we see this Greenway as accomplishing is really adding to the safety of the whole area for the railroad in particular, being able to have a plan in place that affects how close buildings come to the railroad, leaving space for a greenway so that people aren't using the back sides of buildings and just walking down this railroad where they aren't supposed to be, but intentionally creating space that protects them, buffers them from the train traffic, and has buildings fronting instead of the backdoor experience. So making that much safer. And then, of course, just the facility itself, the paved trail with landscaping and added open space, is certainly a value to what could otherwise just be train tracks at the back of buildings that are very close to a rail corridor. And once you're on there, how do you get off? You're not supposed to be on there in the first place. And we won't be on the tracks. The tracks, as you know, and the train will continue to run, will be adjacent to that. So we'll be intentionally upgrading any kind of crossings that are in place, adding lighting, adding that green space, landscaping, working with those property owners adjacent to partner on maintenance and construction, and all those things need to be worked out. So what is, right now, I have no doubt that people are probably walking on that railroad track, right? I mean, it just happens. So I think that's a plus in the minds of the rail authority. For us, it gives us a space to be in and an opportunity to create a park, a linear park. And the connectivity is amazing, connecting the 440 Greenway over to all that's happening in Germantown, the farmer's market, across the river with the pedestrian bridge that's proposed, the 2.5 mile stretch, and then the connectors that go into Frankie Pierce Park and up to the universities, is an amazing piece for such a 2.5, total 4 miles of trail.
It's so exciting. Thank you for reminding us of how exciting it is.
We are very excited. We're very, enthusiastic about what we're hearing from stakeholders and partners. But again, there's still a lot to work out, and we'll just continue to do that. It's, it's got more pieces to it than a greenway out on undeveloped land. It's a different animal. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of projects, actually 4, 3 that you've probably heard about in the news that are happening because of new development, either redevelopment or brand new development. The Richland Creek Greenway at St. Thomas to White Bridge Road. The hospital, St. Thomas West sits here. Their Seton parking garage is here. All this is new development by H.G. Hill. This is White Bridge Road. Of course, we have the old White Bridge Road here with the trailhead that continues on, and, Greenway on this side of Richland Creek. So the creek is running through here. So this project was approved, the SP, several years ago. They're, I don't know if partnering is the right word, but teaming with St. Thomas, all of us working together to utilize this open space and to create a trail connection from the existing trailhead at the old White Bridge all the way over to the creek, and hopefully a creek crossing. And that, that's something that's not required in this SP, but it's certainly something that we're talking about that would connect, go under the railroad and connect to the existing greenway on this side. So ongoing work on that. The SP does require, a greenway easement. They're building this greenway. And it's lovely. I wish I had popped in a photo of this area. I'm blanking on the name of the building that was there previously. But anyway, it's open space now. The view of the river is gorgeous. And I think people, when you're standing down in this space, the hospital is quite elevated. And of course the garage is, but there's a good landscape buffer here. You really do lose sight of the fact that you're so close to so much of the built environment, which isn't a bad, it's not bad to be in the built environment, but it is a respite. And it's going to be lovely when that's built.
So is it St. Thomas, or is it the Hill SP that's building the Greenway?
It's the SP. I am not aware of the specific details on St. Thomas's contribution, although we are on, their property, here. So having that easement and over the whole greenway space and adding in that acreage is a pretty amazing conservation effort.
And is some of that wetlands
Uh,
or floodplain or something? I mean,
definitely floodplain.
Uh-huh.
Definitely floodplain.
but not underwater, it sounds like. It's like a meadow or something.
But right now, there's still some leftover pavement that will be
Right.
taken away, a bit of meadow.
Gotcha.
Definitely trees along the creek. Again, buffering the garage. Even in the wintertime, it's lovely out there. All right, so would that be the west? The west, White Bridge Road here is, and I'm going to show you a slide, but this is the Bellmead Plaza site, which I'm sure you've all heard about. Now, I want to say up front, this is an older drawing, so I know that in recent community meetings, the design team had come back and responded to comments from the public about the size and footprint of these buildings. I believe they added some additional retail square footage per community input. All that said, my focus really here is to talk about the greenway that's proposed. And the White Bridge it's kind of off the sheet here, a little bit hard to read. Let's see if I'm pointing a little bit over to the side. There's a gap, right? So this property ends here. The White Bridge is over here. There is some property in between that we'll have discussions with about making the connection between the two greenways. And those developments are talking to each other about that. But the trail would begin here. They're removing an enormous amount of pavement in the back. They're proposing to do that, restoring the riparian zone, and creating a greenway that meanders through the back and all the way up to Harding. There's a proposed elevated kind of plaza space utilizing some of the structure where the Kroger is now. Kroger is built over the creek. And then Sugar Creek is here. And that also is undergoing some renovation. There are wood with this. So it's a beautiful, activated, proposed greenway. It's one that's, of course, has been on our plans since the first master plan that was done. The developers here are also, designing, building, and maintaining this greenway. It would be in a greenway easement and a participation agreement outlining those responsibilities. So we'll have design input and approval on the greenway as it moves forward. But there's still a lot of discussion happening, a lot of concern about traffic and density and retail and lots of things that are outside of our purview. But what I've seen so far on the greenway does meet our mission and does seem to do a lot of improvement on the creek.
It just seems like it would be wonderful, because instead of just parking lots in the back where you didn't even know the creek was there. I mean, I never knew that Kroger went over the creek, but it goes over the creek.
Yeah.
And that's just nuts. And so now it'll still go over, but you'll be able to go out there and sort of on stilts.
Right.
Some sort of platform.
The Kroger building will be, all the buildings are being demolished, and but they're looking at a way to leave a small plaza area, utilizing some of that foundation to have a little overlook park. And it's not fully designed yet by any means.
To me, the two things that they've got to do is to connect that across White Bridge Road under, and then to the other part of the
Right.
Jim Granberry, H.G. Hill part. And I think it'd be so much better if we can cross the railroad and the creek on the other end of the hospital end. That way the people in the hospital, whether they're visitors or, people stay in the hospital for days and you visit them and it's just dreary, and you need to go outside and walk, and you need this nature, and that would be huge if you could cross and go to our real greenway across the river.
Yes. Amazing greenway segment. And again, there are a lot of other issues that have to be worked out, and lots and lots of community engagement happening there, which is good.
I heard on the committee, the people, on this one, they were opposed because it'd be more traffic. And the developers kept saying, well, it'll be less traffic because it's not retail, it's people who live there. And then people said, oh, but we want Katie's Hallmark and we want the picnic, So they want some more more retail, but not any more traffic. So, people, we're all like that.
It's a process. So we're just staying involved in the conversation, about the greenway, and making sure that, that alternative way of moving around, as well as the park space and the improvement, the conservation of the riparian zone and the creek is what we do. So, all right, so stay tuned on that. sure there'll be more community meetings happening. This project, I think I've talked to you about several times, certainly talked to the park board about it. This is on the Harpeth River Greenway in this bend. It's Ariza Bellevue is the development. It's a multifamily proposed development. Let me get in a little closer. That's just to give you some context of where it is in relation to the Warner Parks and the rest of the Greenway system. This is closer look at the bend. Metro owns this property. This is property that was donated by the Dorothy K. Thomas Friss Foundation several years ago. This is state-owned property where Metro has Greenway Trail and soccer fields. This is the Fusel family property, and this is where the development is proposed. This is CSX Railroad. This is our Harpeth River Greenway along Morton Mill Road, where it currently just terminates at the railroad. It picks up again from what was the HYSA soccer complex. I think it's Nashville football now, or Tennessee football. Forgive me for getting that wrong. We have a pedestrian bridge that crosses the river, and then this loop here around the trails. So long-range plans for us, of course, are to develop this the park with trails, and conservation is a big part of what was intended in that donation. So tree canopy conservation, some more passive recreation happening here, hopefully creek access. We don't have at the moment vehicular access to this side. We have pedestrian access. This project is, I think, let me see if I have that, a little bit different shot there, is proposing a vehicular bridge from Coley Davis Road over the river to their multifamily development. It would terminate in a roundabout that would give us the opportunity to access the park property and be able to develop that. We can access it now just by foot, but that would give us what we need to be able to work on that park development and that master plan. The developer is proposing to extend this greenway where it ends now under the railroad tracks and over to connect to our trail and the pedestrian bridge, and on any rework that might have to be done to continue over to the edge of the property. So there are certainly, Greenway benefits for us. There's open space. I believe it's 20 acres of land that they're going to dedicate over to Metro Parks that would conserve those buffers and floodway area. They'll design and build the Greenway if this moves forward. Again, it's still going through the planning submittal process. I believe it has been deferred to the March 6th or 9th, whichever one of those days is Thursday, Planning Commission. It was supposed to have gone at the past meeting, and it was deferred. So I think they're continuing to meet with the neighborhood. And again, there are concerns about flooding, there are concerns about traffic, safety, all those things that come with a development. But
Cindy, would they maintain that?
they will not maintain this greenway. That will be us maintaining that.
I mean, I think it's a great use of floodway and floodplain, but it probably will go underwater from time to time. And
It
do we
will.
have a feel for what the maintenance involved in that
It's
is?
it'll be the same thing that we have on what we have out there right now. So there will be occasions when we have to come out and clear off silt that might have accumulated. Other than that, the trail seems to hold up pretty well.
So the connection to the greenway we have at the bottom of your map,
Over here. Let me go
would
back.
they build that connection under the railroad?
That is what they're proposing to do with this, as part of their SP conditions, is to build that, I am so challenged with this pointer. I know, it's
They
sad.
would build that under, and they would build
Right.
the greenways on their part of
Right.
the property.
Right.
Fantastic.
And yeah, this is just a quick drawing. This is not the design. They've got a lot of approvals to work through before any kind of construction documents to be developed. But that's where we are today, or where they are, I should say, today. They're headed to the March Planning Commission, and we have submitted comments, and other departments are too. So I think they're trying to answer everyone's concerns.
And if this connection should be built under that bridge and so forth, it would connect us to Edwin Warner Park all the way, right?
It would, all the way.
So one could start at Edwin Warner Park and bike all the way out, really, to the interstate. I mean,
So with a lovely new park at,
great.
Anchor at this end, and then parks along the way, of course, and then Warner Park.
Amazing.
But again, nothing has been, it still has to go to planning commission. So it is, even though it's been kind of in discussions for quite a while now, it's still early in the process.
And Cindy, do you know when that goes to the planning commission, if neighbors are showing up? So that only the concerns get heard? Is there value to having Greenways proponents also?
I
be
think there's
present at
always
this?
value to having, our supporters come and speak. I know that they have been, like I said, I've lost count of the number of public meetings that have happened. Planning has had several, and then the developer and the council members, Hauser and Rosenberg, have also had several community input meetings.
But if only the not in my backyard or too much traffic, if only those people are heard, that could make an impact. When in reality, it would be a great improvement in the whole Greenway system to connect it.
It would be a fantastic Greenway improvement.
I see very few backyards other than the development that hasn't been built and people haven't put their money
Sure.
down. So this is a great example of getting in on the front end. So
There are,
great.
and I can't speak and wouldn't even try to speak for anyone on this, but I know, there's concerns with traffic on Coley Davis Road, concerns about flooding. I think there are concerns about multifamily versus single family. Valid concerns to be worked through. We definitely support that public process. Okay, so let's get past this. Did I just skip one? Cumberland River Greenway, Councilmember Syracuse has been working very hard on the bend to get a greenway system in place as development is happening rapidly out there. If you know or are familiar with Pennington Bend Road, on this side, there are quite a few single-family homes, and they're right, on the edge of the bluff, and there's just nowhere to put a greenway right along the river on a certain stretch of that. So he's looked, and he and I have talked quite a bit, and he's talked with a lot of internal metro departments about, maybe taking it a little bit to the interior of the bend. And this is the Gleaves farm, and that is proposed to be developed, and it's got housing and some camping, and I can't speak to all of what's happening there, other than there is a greenway planned that would traverse that property. McGavick Pike is here, and Pennington Bend Road is here. There's several other projects underway out here that also include greenways. So really, it's beginning to put together several pieces that potentially will make an amazing, I keep saying amazing, but honestly they are, loop around the bend. Terminology. So this has been proposed. We've made some comments on it. Again, it's early in their process, and I wish that Councilman Syracuse wasn't able to be here today. I know he would love to talk about this, but I think for us and for Greenways, it's really great potential to get new greenway out on the bend where we haven't been able to before. And of course, you know, at McGavock, we have the boat ramp that was developed several years ago and opened up. And then a little further down is Opry Mills. So there is a gap between the Opry Mills connector and McGavock, but, you know, again, it's an assemblage of property and segments of Greenway that will lend itself to a very nice loop. And then on to projects that we are doing in-house. This is the 440 Greenway right outside our door from our trailhead here. It will take the 440 Greenway down to the 28th Avenue, 31st Avenue connector and on into Centennial Park, tying into trails that are in Centennial Park. So we're working with the Parks Planning Division and Tim to make that happen as part of this project. It also connects, of course, to the complete street, off-street cycle sidewalk on the connector. And this is Charlotte Avenue. Part of the Charlotte Green Railway Trail project would be improving this short section of on-street bike and ped facility to the rail corridor, which happens here. So you can begin to see.
And Cindy, is that just following up where it parallels Park Plaza? Is it on Park Plaza or is it on the backside of something?
So Centennial Park, the dog park is here. And, you know, we're hoping to be able to utilize some of that street right of way to create a trail that has separation from the road.
Gotcha.
So a buffer there. This section will have lighting. You know, we're lighting the Gulch Greenway, we're lighting the more urban trails that we know people will travel on after dark or need to. And then we're also adding, as part of this project, coming back to the existing phase 1 of the 440 Greenway and adding lighting to that. There's some street lighting, doesn't really light the Greenway. We know that people are out there after dark, especially in the wintertime. So we're retrofitting that, so to speak.
Who's doing the design on that?
This project is KCI, so they have a team of consultants. They've got electrical engineers and designers.
Gotcha.
And we've had an initial kickoff meeting. We've walked all of this and talked about different options. They're going to come back to us with different options for lighting. They're doing an analysis of what's out there now, what's needed. There are a few other projects that are underway that also need lighting. So we're coordinating those to have some standards. Not necessarily every Greenway has to have the same lighting as the next, but certainly the Greenway itself needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
Some of those other projects are the First and Gay Park that we've had several public meetings on that. Downtown, that will have lighting. The next slide that I'm going to show you, which is the 440 Greenway from Sevier Park to Browns Creek Park, will also incorporate lighting. And because it's all 440, we definitely want those standards to look the same so that you know you're on that Greenway as you travel through it. I don't know that everything will necessarily match what we've done in the Gulch. The Gulch kind of has its own identity, and it had a set of design standards when the Gulch itself began to be developed. So we've tried to stay with those design standards. So maybe a little different. We also didn't have some of the same ordinances then. Dark sky
Right.
probably was a thing, but it wasn't necessarily a thing here. And so we're aware of that. And we have a lot more opportunities now too. LED lighting, things that we didn't have
Great.
5-6 years ago. So, speaking of Sevier Park to Browns Creek Park, this project, I'm going to hone in on this in a minute, but this is Sevier Park. So we're over here today, and Sevier Park, Gale Lane Park, and Browns Creek Park. You can see how close they all are. Interstate 40 separates them, and we are proposing a greenway that would connect all these. There are already greenway trails in Gale Lane Park and Browns Creek Park, and there are walking trails in Sevier. So let me get us in a little bit closer. Get you oriented. This is Sevier Park, Gale Lane Park, and Browns Creek Park. So we are looking at a connection between these two. Then in TDOT excess land, it's hard to see here, it's a little washed out, but this is Interstate 440. There is excess right-of-way from TDOT at the foot of the interstate, so it's elevated here. We would be down at ground level. You can see that in this cross-section. This is the trail. This is the embankment going up to the interstate. So that's, this cross-section aligns with this sketch. So there are residential homes. Their property ends a little bit far away for me to see, but in this area, there is an existing buffer. I think we would supplement that with some plantings, build our trail in the TDOT right-of-way. There is a retaining wall that's going to be needed just to bench into that slope for the trail. And then, again, all this would remain. Just know too, this is a license agreement that we started, had submitted to the state before the improvements were made to the Greenway, to the interstate, and we were put on hold while that was happening. We've come back, taken a look at the conceptual design that we had done. We had submitted a license application prior to the reconstruction on the interstate. We got held off. We felt like enough time had passed that we really needed to revisit the design that we had done to make sure we were still on track. We also knew we needed to go back out to the public. So we've had public engagement. And this is what we talked about. This was one of the exhibits that we looked at and got input on. There's really not a whole lot of options in terms of routing. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. We were very aware and intentional about the street crossings, making sure that those are safe. We've met with NDOT several times to talk about enhanced crosswalks, making sure that we're doing the proper signage. So at this point, we're, like I said, we are way down below the interstate. We do cross under the interstate here and back out onto Battlemont, alongside Battlemont Drive. It's pretty much, there's trees and then there's kind of open space. Following Battlemont Drive over to the entrance to Browns Creek Park. Great connections. Eventually, the trail, of course, will head out from Gale Lane Park and move back towards Elmington. So we're kind of doing bookends here. But this makes so much sense. Having these parks, having that space available, it's kind of a no-brainer to make this the next segment.
Cindy, when you go down Belmont Park, is that still state excess?
It is. So we are in excess land here. I think some point in here, we're just in Metro right-of-way and park property. But the bulk of it is in TDOT excess land. Their license agreement is a 20-year agreement. So the win for us here is no cost, no property acquisition needed. We do have to meet all the state's requirements, of course. And, we're going to do that. Any other questions? All right, I'm just going to move on. Kind of bookending this with Brookmead Greenway, as you all know, we've been talking about for months. It has been cleaned up by the Parks Department. Just prior to that, the folks who were living here have been rehoused or housed, however you want to look at that. So no one is living on the site now. It is, once everyone was located into housing, the Parks Department came out and did a huge cleanup, and kudos to them for all the work that they did. I love this photo. We took this last week, walking the site, walking the Greenway, and a reminder of just how beautiful it is down at the Cumberland River. And, what you're seeing there is a lot of just raw dirt that truly they recently just finished cleaning up. They've done a phase 1 on the property, and that nothing of any concern showed up in the phase 1 environmental assessment. So what we're doing is reconstructing what was there. And we have a consultant on board. Some of the pavement, probably all the pavement will have to be at least re-topped, if not just relaid. There's some bridges, little footbridges and boardwalks that will need to be reconstructed. But we've had our kickoff meeting, and then we walked the site last week. So well underway with that project. Very excited about that. It's beautiful down there. That is, it is closed. It is closed while design is underway and then construction. Directly adjacent, Metro Water Services has a project going on, so they're still moving trucks in and out as they're working on their facility to that. But until it's rebuilt and the trailhead is rebuilt, it will be closed to the public.
6 months, you think?
I don't have an answer for you on that yet. I don't know, but we can, I think by the park board meeting next week, Phil will probably have some scheduled time.
And Cindy, this is probably a larger question than just this Greenway, but I know that council has been able to authorize a whole lot of ARP money for resettling people in permanent supportive housing, and we're going to work hard to find new funding so that we can continue to do that. But do we have strategy for dealing with, the one lone camper that shows up and then becomes 70 again, or how do we propose to deal with that?
Sure, and I wish we had some more folks here to address that. I think, here it's fenced off. So, if someone does come into the area, I think they will be asked to move. It's closed. It's closed now, so no one is supposed to be in.
And we're doing better at figuring out other options to say, and here's a place where you can go to. So we got to
Right, and
continue
there
to
are
make that
many agencies
possible.
involved in finding housing.
Great.
Folks. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Jordan to give us an update from Greenways for Nashville.
Cindy, I just want to make a comment. These are just fantastic progress and visions for the future, of course. But the value of what you and your staff do to work with all of these organizations that are willing to actually build or supply the land or whatever is it's hard it's a struggle to think about how to illustrate that value. We know because we hear on a regular basis. We don't necessarily hear what the dollar value is that the city would have had to do or come up with. But I just continue to want to be able to express to people the value of our staff who work on this. And it's not, and that's such a big part of it. So, and it wouldn't happen. I mean, some of them might happen, but they wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen with the quality and the consistency and the connectivity and the prioritizing, et cetera, but for all of you all's hard work. So
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We are,
Yay.
it is an honor to be able to work on these projects and to, what we're all interested in public service, leaving a legacy for the future and saving these spaces that may otherwise go away. So thank you all for supporting that, because it is a huge effort on everyone's part. And we appreciate council's support, because that's so key. Lots and lots of partners.
Is it council or is it the planning commission, or who sets the rules that say, if you develop this, you must do this? I mean, that's key as well.
Sure.
because-
So there is a subdivision ordinance that calls for easements along waterways where greenways are planned. if the property is being subdivided and developed. So that, was Shane Dennis, who was my predecessor, worked with the planning department, and I'm sure others that I'm not even aware of, to get that in place. And I know when that happened, that was huge, and it still is. We are trying to develop expanded policy that will move forward these greenways that we're building now with partnerships, but those are, unless it's an SP project, we might not know about a development coming in if it has the right to zone already, doesn't have to go through rezoning. But even the SP projects, we're working closely with the planning department to make sure that we see those as they're coming through, and if there's greenway potential, that we're working with those developers. Because right now, they may not have any particular ordinance in place that requires what we need. It does give us an opportunity to get a really great product, as we've seen on the Gulch Greenway and happening behind First Tennessee Park and along the Cumberland River Greenway, both in the Nations and in Germantown, now on Pennington Bend, Harpeth River, Richland Creek, all these places. We do depend on and work well with the planning department
Right.
to make sure that we're hearing about those. There are a lot.
I remember a time when the law was there, the rules were there, but anyone could get a variance if you cried hard. Oh, we just can't afford to do that. No, we want to build right up to the street because that's the only way we can make money. And they would grant a variance.
I think the developers in Nashville and the community at large has realized, I know they have realized that the value to this public space and the value to what the trails bring and the conservation of the waterways, but not just the waterways, once we're off of those, the green space, quality of life value that comes with this is recognized. And kudos to all of you, to council, to the city, to developers, everyone
Mayor.
that make that happen and have realized that and work with us. We couldn't do it without that kind of partnership.
And I would
The
just
mayor has
throw
been
out,
extremely supportive.
and then the mayor, and theoretically, in September, there will be a new crop of council members that, and maybe you do this every 4 years, that sit down with the new council members and make sure they know that anytime there's an SP,
Yes.
there could be an opportunity to ask for this, because they'll hear about it before planning does sometimes, so.
And we will very intentionally make those discussions happen. I think the last few years hasn't been as smooth in terms of, there's just been change. And Mayor Cooper has been fantastic at listening and hearing what we're trying to do, the council also. But you're right, when it changes over, it's time to sit down and, share what we do. And we're looking at different ways to do that, to
For elections.
inform.
But to have I think having council people help take the lead on
Yes.
encouraging people to be there and also gives a chance for beyond the SPs. I mean, they're going to hear about people developing, so we can get to the people who aren't going to be coming in for an SP.
Right.
And that, just giving them the tools to,
And giving them the opportunity to develop their projects and include a greenway. I mean, it's a huge
yeah.
benefit to commercial multifamily, all the developments. It is a win for everyone to get these in place and to do it intentionally. And, we just want to continue to encourage that, to continue to inform, to let people know that these are the plans. Yes, we're adding to them. We're not taking anything away, but we certainly look for opportunities to add more greenway trails. And we do need council to know that so that they're aware and can help us as those developments come through. And so far, we've had some great assistance in that way, and we really appreciate it.
And frankly, we need to find, I mean, we're getting off on a lot of things, but we need to find ways to show appreciation for the development community. And because incredible partners. So,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
And speaking of partners, Greenways for Nashville. Couldn't have better.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay, so speaking of, I'm going to go a little out of order here, just to tack on the great thread of all these wonderful projects that are happening. Over the next couple of weeks, you'll notice the Greenways for Nashville website is getting a little bit of a makeover. One of the nice things about this new site, and speaking of all these wonderful new projects, is it's going to help folks from avid Greenway users to the new explorers find their closest Greenway and navigate to them. So the new site will have a revamped Get a Map section. So instead of the full map, which can be a little intimidating if you unfurl that big national park style map, you'll be able to type in your address and find your closest Greenway. Not only that, you'll be able to take it another level deeper and get an individualized map of that segment of Greenway. So let's say you live over in Donaldson Hermitage, and looking at that big map, Stones River, 10 miles, looks a little intimidating. So you type in your address, you can find the closest trailhead, as well as a very accessible map of that Greenway. Also gives you a little bit of some information about what to expect as far as, is this an urban Greenway? Are there opportunities to shop along that Greenway? Or is this more of like a natural Greenway with opportunities to watch nature? Is there a water feature? Things like that. So keep an eye on the website. It's really exciting. Should be launching in the next couple of weeks. Super excited to really help folks, like I said, from those avid, dedicated Greenway users to the new explorers, get out and explore this wonderful system. And then just one more quick update. Equally as fun, now in its 17th year, the Richland Creek Run is back on April 1st. As you know, it's a 5-mile walk-run that starts in Sylvan Park and goes along the beautiful Richland Creek Greenway. And then new this year, if you are not up for 5 miles of fun, there is a 1-mile option too. So you can get out and either run or walk that 1 mile. That way you can join in on the fun and help not only fundraise for Greenways for Nashville, but also friend raise. So this is one of our signature friend raisers, a true community event where we get to get out and spend some time with our neighbors for a great cause. That's all for Greenways for now. So if you have any questions, please fire away, and I'm happy to answer any you might have.
Where's the physical location where, you would meet?
Yeah, so it's over at Cone School, so right off Charlotte, and the 5 mile starts at 8 a.m. So there's also a dinky dash for the kiddos, starts at 7:30. The 5 miler is at 8, and then the 1 miler is at 8:05. And I have lots of posters here too, so if you would like to take these lovely design posters back to your business or your place of employment, we would be greatly appreciative.
They're beautiful posters, and it's a fun event. So even if you don't run it, just come out and support it. Watch the kids in the dinky dash. It's great.
There may be someone dressed in a fox costume, so cannot confirm or deny. So.
Bring your dog. Thank you, Jordan.
Of course, thank you.
We normally move to Metro Department reports, and unfortunately, our department reps weren't here today for various reasons. I did hear from all of them. NDOT has just asked me to share that the Connect Downtown study is the next round of public engagement will be in March. If you go on their website, you can get information about that. I would tell you where that is, but the link is so long here, no one wants to hear me say that, but I can send it to you. And again, it's on their website. Metro Water Services also reached out to me to let me know about some properties that they're purchasing as flood buyout properties. As you know, we've had some really great projects built through that effort and conserved quite a few acres of land by partnering with them. So we'll continue. The most recent are over on the Mill Creek Greenway on Wimpole Road, where we have a greenway now, and I think this might give us an opportunity to kind of set us up for some extension there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Cindy, what is the Connect Downtown? What is that?
Connect Downtown is a study that NDOT is conducting around the core of downtown and how to improve mobility and transportation. So they're looking at all forms of transportation, whether it's buses, cars, bikes, the whole, what's happening there in the right of way. And there's been quite a bit of engagement on that, and stakeholders as well, department heads department representatives. They'll come out, I think, in March with several scenarios of how improvements can be made in getting people around downtown. And that will be open for public input. So it does take into account where we have greenways and say how bike lanes or sidewalks maybe can help connect to those. But other, certainly bigger transportation solutions as well.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Cindy and Jordan and Amrita. Meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.